Hey everyone, Butlee here. I'm with Patch. We're playing Tactics Ogre. How you doing, Patch?
Good. Yourself?
I'm good. I'm excited. This is really getting exciting in terms of if you're liking the story. Yeah, the story's great. As you can see
I'm thinking
here.
a healer.
Well, that's why I like having the water mage. She's got quench, so she's
Okay.
kind of healer. This is the cool thing about some of the trees. Like once you get to know some of the magic and stuff, you can multitask them a little bit. That was basically the main reason for making Anna, and like we hired her. She was one of the first hires we had. If you can remember last time, we had a chat with. We listened to the Dark Knights, and they were planning on reinforcing their pact with the Duke, and then we sat at the table with the Duke and we discussed our plan of attack, in which case we are going to go chase after Vice apparently, so he doesn't like pollute and create another rebellion in behind our ranks. And so Leonard got called to the front of the castle because we found some Gargastani that were trying to raid us, and that's what we see here. And here Leonard's trying to prove how honorable he is. He's like, we're gonna massacre you, but we'll pretend it's honorable if we give you weapons and let you fight instead of just like knocking you out and murdering you all.
Who's that up the back?
I believe it's mostly all our troops. We don't command them.
Okay.
This is a fight. This is like, it's not a difficult fight, it's just a story.
No.
Part of the story, really. That's why I just sort of took I took Johannes because I wanted to get him some levels, even though I didn't want to do too much with him. And again, same with Anna, she's sort of a healer if anything goes wrong, but she's also just someone who needs a bit of airtime because we've been using Bouchard so much because he has way more damage. And just in case we never really said too much about it, I'm on a path now that I'm not 100% sure how the story plays out from here. It branches, and I think I've used maybe I don't know. I've played this through the game in its entirety twice, so I know those branches a little bit. But even that was a while ago, and I've played through the first 2 or 3 chapters of the story so many times, but I don't think I've ever been down this path specifically. So. Sure, I will have the foresight of having already recorded the episode before we're commentating it, but in the sense of like making decisions now that affect later, I can't do that. And to date, I've sort of been doing a bit of that. A lot of stuff that I was planning, like I said, like creating some like Anna, I knew that I'd get in situations where having a water mage with heal was cool. Well, I'll still know some things like that, but I won't know when those things are specifically important. So I'll sort of only be planning like 1 episode ahead of time now because I just won't know what's coming next in the story.
Yeah. Should make it interesting.
Yeah, it's going to get more interesting for me too. And, maybe... But at the same time, like, not being prepared now isn't such a big deal. As the team gets more and more diverse, it shouldn't matter. We should have a team like that's equipped to handle any situation. If I have to like explain the difference, like, when we first... took Anna on board was when we first sort of started facing beasts and octopus and stuff like that, and I knew in that situation that we'd need another caster, and so I had that foresight to get Anna a few videos or a few episodes earlier so that she was ready for that fight. Well, obviously I can't do that now because I won't know what's coming.
Yeah.
I still know like the rough machinations of the plot stay the same, even though our specific route is different, but it won't be enough to really manage things that well. That's a lot of damage too. You can see Johannes now that he's got a few levels, the axe is starting to do real damage. But even though he's been a bit of a liability to date, it's kind of handy. I actually feel like we're getting kind of lucky on a lot of these negative buff rolls, to be honest. We've barely been paralyzed or poisoned at all this playthrough, I think.
I have noticed that. I didn't know if it was just because it's got a low chance or if you've been lucky.
I think it's been lucky. I'm trying to remember, but I always felt... Yeah, I felt we've had a lot more trouble with that before.
So. Good job.
Yeah, it's hard. This is a fairly short episode. What are we going to do after this battle, which obviously is not going to take long for Leonard and his troops to just stomp through everyone. we are going to have a quick look at some of the lore and just sort of catch up. Because if you think about it, from sort of arriving at the castle, we sort of had probably the ambush at Rhyme, where the Dark Knights invaded and Zapan got away with her sister. We haven't really stopped since then. To me, this is almost like one big continuous story arc, even though there's like a 3-week pause in that whole cutscene sort of intro sequence again. It's all been sort of one big continuous story for us. We did this, we went to the castle, then we had to fight through Zapan and the sorceress out there, and then we Ramados, and then we met Vice and had a showdown with him in the castle, and then Leonard showed up, and so this is like a direct continuation from there. So we're gonna, after this battle, we're gonna take a look at the lore and all the people that have been mentioned and things, because they've been, like, the Dark Knights had this whole conversation about people we'd never heard of before. Just stuff like that. So I don't know, is there anything you wanted to bring up? We got a few minutes, you know, to mince what's been happening in the world of things that we're interested in.
I've been playing XCOM. The XCOM Enemy Unknown and Enemy Within.
Yes.
And after watching this game, I felt really disappointed in XCOM. This game continually provides an experience that could be arguably said to be challenging on a linear path, and XCOM lacks a lot of features that I would have thought are core features.
I'm not gonna lie, so I played this, and then XCOM came out, and this is what I thought XCOM would be.
Yeah.
Futuristic, but yes, this.
Well, like the things, it's only a few small things, but they do impact the game very significantly. Like the first thing is, you can't move after you do an action. It's action ends your turn. Most of the time. There is one ability that lets you do an attack and then continue with your turn. But I really hate that. I feel like it's dull for the gameplay. Like, don't get me wrong, I understand if there's like a rocket launcher that you have to use your move and your action to use.
Right,
but
you feel like you're fighting against the mechanics as much as you are fighting against your enemies in that case. You know what does that make sense?
When you're allowed to move and attack, you should also be allowed to attack and then move. It shouldn't limit you, because what that does is it forces you into situations that you wouldn't otherwise be in if the mechanics allowed. And I feel like it was intentional as like some sort of a pseudo balance decision.
It was
that I hate it.
Balance decision, yeah, it's ugly.
I really hate it. The other thing is you can't undo things. And that sounds like, oh, well, just don't make a mistake, or, oh, you just want to get out of trouble when you step into trouble. It's like, well, sometimes XCOM doesn't have the best paving and clicking and things. Like, you might be trying to click on a very specific point, and it's flicking between 2 points because there's elevation there, or there's a piece of terrain or something. And you're trying to aim something very precisely, and the game doesn't allow for that. And there's no sort of way to fix...
It's a problem with the UI as well, like you say.
Yeah.
If it had like really good user interface, then these sort of things wouldn't be as much of an issue. But it's hard to micromanage through a poor user interface and then not make mistakes and then not have any way to correct yourself.
Those are the main two gripes. I guess the other things worth mentioning is, I found the fact that it's, I guess you could say, procedurally generated. Not really. I mean, there's like a dozen maps, and then from those maps you fight a variety of enemy forces in those maps. And I found that is really lackluster. I was talking to someone, I was just playing it last night, and I was talking to someone, I was like, wow, this game's really easy. Sorry, is this about to end it?
You're right, keep going. We're only going to read through things, it's not, we don't have to talk about those things if we don't want to. Go.
Well, I said to him, wow, this game's really easy. I've just been I just did 2 missions in a row, took no damage on either mission. And I'd met my first cyber disc, so that was a big deal. Cyber discs are quite potent enemies when you first meet them. And I no damage that mission. I was feeling really great about myself. And the next thing that happened was a terror mission, where you have to save innocent civilians who die in one hit, at any aim. You basically can't miss them.
Yep.
And you got to save a certain number of them to get a decent ranking. And it spawned 3 cyber discs on top of other enemies. And it didn't just spawn them, like, it had them walk onto screen all at once. So I ended up facing this new enemy, 3 of, all at once. And I did manage it, but it was like the spike in difficulty from the previous level where I fought 1 in a normal cyber.
Sorry.
What?
I forgot this happened.
What is this?
Some of your units are growing discontent.
Oh.
She's not happy about the decisions we made.
I'm not surprised. I would have turned on Leonard in that fight. I really want to... I was thinking, you hovered over him with your bow at one point, and I was like, yep, shoot him.
Anyway, you can continue. I forgot that showed up. That's why I would have said something.
But yeah, the sporadic difficulty in XCOM.
But that was supposed to be part of the appeal.
Sure, but it's not good. It's not well designed. Like that mission you just played, that was meant to be an easy mission. Because the game designers could develop it that way.
That mission was supposed to be like story, like playable story. It was almost like a Telltale game.
and that's what I mean. Like you can have setups like that, or you can have exceptionally hard missions where you have to rush down the villain or whatever.
Yeah.
In XCOM, you don't have that. You just have missions on missions on missions, and like whether a mission is easy or whether a mission is hard is completely sporadic.
Yeah. I think that's why I stopped playing it. There was a lot of like having to redo stuff. I didn't enjoy that. Because like you say, it wasn't oh, I made a mistake, I have to redo it. It was like, okay, I got a bad spawn camp.
I haven't actually. I've been playing effectively Iron Man. I didn't turn Iron Man on, but I just haven't been reloading or anything because I didn't see the need. I haven't needed to so far in any measure of it. And the expansion really just makes the game easier, like by a large measure. The enemy within, because then you get missions where you fight Exalt, and Exalt is basically just humans with guns.
Yeah.
And so they have similar equipment to you, but they're rarely as tough as you. So
you can custom build your team to be better.
Yeah, and it's very easy to kill them. It's usually just a meat grinder. I don't think I've lost anyone. I might have lost like 1 soldier on a mission with Exalt, but typically no one gets particularly hurt, no one dies, no one goes down. They're just, every time an Exalt mission shows up, I just slaughter them. And when I last played XCOM before this run, one of the final things to do with Exalt was I raided their headquarters, and it was a slaughter. I just went in and just blew up everything, absolutely demolished them, firing rockets, and had 2 mechs running around with flamethrowers, and it was absolutely brutal. And it's just such a contrast to like the actual battles where you can come up against enemies with 4 bars of health, and then you fight Exalt and nothing has more than 2 bars of health.
Yeah.
It's like, well, that's 2 shots tops.
Like, why was I even pointless? The other thing is, it's a big deal to go into any battle in XCOM. It takes a long time to fight, to load. All the turns take ages. Like,
oh yeah,
so
definitely.
If you get easy battles or ones you lose instantly because of random chance and things like that, it gets really painful. You get really sick of it.
You're 100% right. The only reason I've actually been playing the game is because I like the management. I like being able to pick what my soldiers can do. I like, I need to put satellites here. I need to build this.
And that's where I feel like
planes.
That's what I say when I say I saw Tactics Ogre and I expected XCOM to be like that. I wanted to custom build my futuristic team of soldiers. But
yeah.
For me, it gets a bit too much. Like, all your tech is like, I have a gun. Oh, I got a better gun. That's it. Like,
definitely.
You can have a pistol, a rocket, a sniper, or a assault rifle, and you're like, that's kind of it. And then you can get better. And yeah, there's grenades and there's other stuff. But
I
not
agree
much.
with you.
Whereas in this, it's like you've already seen there is like 12 melee weapon styles. There's single-handed, double-handed. There's ranged, and then there's magic. Like, holy heck.
Well, this goes back to our past conversations of mechanical depth, and the reason XCOM fails in that regard is because its mechanical depth relies like almost purely on RNG and manipulating RNG. Like, it's all about that cover combat, whereas Tactics Ogre, the combat is all about who you're using and where they're positioned and things. Because the other thing XCOM does is limit you to 6 people, It's like you can't make a team out of 6 people. If you were allowed 8 or 10, you could have a great, you know,
Yeah.
whatever.
There's not enough
but you
classes
can't.
to really do that either, so...
No, I agree.
It kind of lets
And
itself down, is all I'm saying. I don't know if this Mount Weebury thing is relevant. I cannot remember. Just FYI. Maybe can we have a look at some of these things as we go through? Just...
Oh, sure. If there's anything you want, I mean, I just.
We'll have to come back to
expressing
talk about
disdain.
XCOM at a deeper episode. This is sort of only quick, and it's pretty much all story. Like I said, once we get sort of this episode out the way, we go back to, you know, actually combat, and we'll have time to mince on a few things.
Oh, no, I'd just say XCOM, there's not really much to say about it other than it was a first attempt. And as a first attempt, it was fine. But otherwise, yeah, it was just disappointing.
Yeah, I just think they're on the right path. It was just too limited.
Yeah.
It felt like it had a lot of excuse me, had a lot of potential.
And I think the
So
sequel
we
didn't
are-
do much to improve it.
Butlee Pavel, and I think I might have jumped the gun a bit, and we'll see in a minute when we find another. We go through some of the people. I mentioned a name that the Dark Knights talked about, and I was like, yeah, that's our relative, and by the link of Pavel, but I don't know if that had been explicitly stated in the story yet. Anyway.
I'm sure you could have picked that up.
Yeah, for me, like, the problem is once you know, it's hard to remember what was exactly foresight, like what was forewarned and what was hinted at and what was actually
Yeah.
not. And I just knew it, so I assumed it. Like Vice's portrait, it's that evil portrait. And so here we go. He took flight when he saw that he couldn't handle that we were part of the that we joined. And then, as you can see, the Duke hasn't really changed. He like lied about why they're trying to chase Vice to the public, which has
Yeah.
kind of been his shtick from day one. So it's starting to create more of a character of Duke as well, of the Duke as well.
Please, the Duke was obviously like that the whole way through.
Yeah, but is he any better or worse than the other two guys, like the other leaders? I don't know.
Well, that depends. I don't know the first thing about the other leaders.
Well, the Gargastani had the Wallister in prison camps, so it says something.
True. Probably because they were afraid of the Wallisters martyring their own people and
The
going to
backroom
war.
leader wasn't actually the ruler. He used his political sway to become the ruler. And he thinks he can take
And?
the whole land by force. Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying, are they any better than the Duke, who is sort of an elected ruler? And
Well, the Duke murdered his own people to start a war. So
my point is
I think
really
they're a
that
little bit better.
none. Yeah, okay. I just don't think any of them are innocent. I like the conflict that they're all kind of dodgy in their own way. The fight for power is not clean, no matter
No.
which way you approach it.
Granted, they're not all innocent, but I think the Duke out of all of them is the worst because building an empire on lies is going to collapse in on itself. And the moment those lies start coming out is when things start to fall apart. Now that we know him as a liar and a traitor, we won't trust him
Maybe we can kill him later.
because we're twice scorned. Like, not us specifically, but he's scorned us, and now he's scorned Vice.
Right.
So now we know for sure that he just turns on the people who don't work for him. And it's like, well, we can't trust that in any reasonable measure.
Hey, look, it's Zapan. The now dead Zapan.
That face.
I like it. It's like when I see the little, what do you call it, the sprite where he's laughing. Can't help but think of that face laughing.
Wait, through Vice's betrayal.
Well, Vice stabbed him, remember? He was like, I took the prisoner just like you said. He was
Oh,
like, you
yeah,
used
yeah.
the prisoner wrong. Yeah. So here's Prancet Pavel, right? And the Dark Knights referred to him as a boon at Prancet. The Liberation Front freed him from their castle somewhere. I forget exactly where the castle was. Oh, at Heim. There you go. He was held at
Yeah.
Heim. So you have to remember that. It's going to be relevant later, Heim. I think we go there.
For a moment, I thought it said it was the former father. And I was like, oh, that's weird.
No. So he got kidnapped from Goya when the Dark Knights first invaded. When they
Yep.
first arrived. And that was the first sort of indication that the Bakram had the Dark Knights. And we were like, oh, they're doing things.
Yep.
But it was also the first sort of sign that they kind of, even though there were soldiers for the Bakram, they weren't helping the Bakram specifically. They had their own agenda. And now it's sort of coming into fruition. So obviously he's central to it, which he must be important. Remember, what they said about him is that he's one of only 2 people that know a something. I can't remember exactly what that something was. Don't get me wrong, I know what it is, but I can't tell you. I don't know what the story has revealed that thing is. Did I stop looking at people? I did, because there's a certain person in that list and I don't want to accidentally read their thing until they become more relevant. I'm terrible. I shouldn't say things like that. It ruins it for everyone who doesn't know how the story goes. I think that's about it for this episode, though. Like I said, we were just taking stock of where we're at. As you can see, all of the Wallister land is open to us. That little pink section we're going to have a look at next time. That's the wildland that we saw opened up a long time ago that we never actually went to. We'll have a look what's in there, what you can do in there, and have a bit of a battle. So that'll be a bit of a longer episode where we fight our way through it. And then we'll take some stock of where our team's at, and then we'll continue on our journey. Any parting words from you, Patch?
No, not today.
Alright, well, thanks everyone for your time, and we will see you again next time.
Bye.